I arrived at my son's for Christmas dinner. My daughter-in-law blocked the door.
"No room for you," she said.
A plastic plate on the floor with scraps. "Eat there like a dog." I laughed. "Oh, honey. Dogs are loyal, unlike you." I pulled out my phone and sent my son the photos, her and her boss working late. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Let me tell you how a grandmother learned to bite back. My name is Dorothy Hamilton, and at 67, I thought I'd seen every flavor of family drama. 3 marriages, 2 divorces, 1 widowhood, and a son who married a woman who makes black widow spiders look cuddly. But standing on that front porch at 2847 Maple Street on Christmas Day, 2024, holding a pie that took me 4 hours to perfect, I realized I'd been naive about human cruelty. The house looked like something from a magazine. Melissa had insisted on the colonial renovation 2 years ago, all funded by my son Daniel's promotion to regional sales manager at the pharmaceutical company. White columns, red door, wreaths on every window. Martha Stewart would have wept with joy. Too bad the woman inside had the warmth of a meat locker.
"Dorothy."
Melissa stood in the doorway, wearing a burgundy dress that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Her blonde hair was pulled back in that severe style she'd adopted since deciding I was excess baggage. "What are you doing here?" I blinked. "It's Christmas dinner. Daniel invited me last week." That was before we finalized the guest list. She stepped back slightly, but kept her body blocking the entrance. Through the gap, I could see the dining room table set for 8 people. Crystal glasses, gold-rimmed plates, the works. No place setting for me, naturally. Check if you're subscribed to the channel and write in the comments where you're watching this video from. We love to know how far our stories are reaching. "Melissa, I brought apple pie." I held up the dish, hopefully. "Daniel's favorite with the cinnamon crumble you liked last time." Her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. How thoughtful. But honestly, we're completely full. The Andersons are here, plus Daniel's work colleagues and their wives. There's simply no room. No room. In a house with 6 bedrooms and a dining room that could seat 12, I felt something cold settle in my stomach, but I kept my voice pleasant. Years of dealing with difficult customers at the department store had taught me patience. Perhaps I could wait in the kitchen until someone leaves. "Oh, I don't think so." Melissa's voice carried that particular tone people use when explaining things to children or very slow adults. "This is really more of a business dinner anyway. You'd be bored with all the corporate talk from inside." I heard Daniel's laugh. My son, who used to curl up in my lap during thunderstorms, who called me every day during his divorce from his first wife, who promised he'd never let anyone come between us, that Daniel was 30 feet away, probably telling jokes, while his mother stood on the porch like an unwanted door-to-door salesman. Could I at least speak to Daniel? He's in the middle of an important conversation with Mr. Patterson from the home office. Melissa glanced back into the house, then returned her attention to me. "Look, Dorothy, I feel terrible about this. Why don't I make you a plate to take home?" She disappeared for exactly 90 seconds, returning with a paper plate covered in aluminum foil. Through the wrapping, I could see turkey scraps, the dark meat nobody wanted, some dry stuffing, and what looked like the heel of a dinner roll. "There we go." She set the plate on the front porch right next to the welcome mat that said, "Blessed family." Then she did something that will live in my memory until my dying day. She pointed to the ground beside the plate. "You can eat right there if you're hungry, like a good dog." The words hung in the December air like visible frost. For a moment, I couldn't process what I'd heard.
"Dogs."
She'd compared me to a dog. Not just any dog. A good dog, the kind that obeys commands and eats scraps without complaint. I looked at the plate on the concrete porch, then at Melissa's face. She wasn't even trying to hide her satisfaction. This had been planned. The guest list, the seating arrangement, the paper plate, all of it designed to show me exactly where I ranked in her world. And that's when I started laughing. Not bitter laughter or hysterical cackling, just genuine amusement at the sheer audacity of it all. Because dogs, as I pointed out to my charming daughter-in-law, are loyal creatures. They don't sneak around behind their owners' backs. They don't lie about working late, and they certainly don't check into hotel rooms with their married bosses every Tuesday afternoon for the past 6 months. I pulled out my phone and opened the photo album I'd been hoping I'd never have to use. Speaking of dogs, honey, I said, scrolling to the picture I'd taken last Tuesday when I'd followed her car instead of going to my book club meeting. At least they're loyal, unlike you. The photo was beautifully clear. Melissa and her boss, Mr. Thompson, entering the Marriott downtown at 2:47 p.m. The second photo showed them checking in at the front desk. The third showed them kissing in the elevator. I held the phone so she could see the screen clearly. Should I send these to Daniel now? Or would you prefer to tell him yourself why you're suddenly so interested in working overtime? The color drained from Melissa's face faster than water down a sink. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. For the first time in 3 years, she was completely speechless. I thought you might appreciate knowing that some of us old dogs still have bite, I said pleasantly. Then press send on the text message I'd already typed to Daniel's number. From inside the house, I heard his phone notification chime. Then silence, then the sound of a chair scraping against hardwood floor. What happened next would change everything. Daniel appeared in the doorway 30 seconds later, holding his phone like it contained a live grenade. His face had gone pale under his Christmas tan from the Bahamas vacation Melissa had insisted they take in November. Behind him, I could hear the dinner conversation continuing. The Andersons discussing stock portfolios and Mr. Patterson sharing golf stories.
Mom.
His voice cracked on the word. What are these pictures? Melissa tried to grab the phone from his hands, but he stepped back. I watched my son's face as he scrolled through the evidence of his wife's double life. Each swipe brought a new expression. Confusion, hurt, rage, and finally that cold calculation he'd inherited from his father. Daniel, I can explain, Melissa started, her voice higher than usual. Explain what exactly? He looked from the phone to his wife to me, standing on the porch with my apple pie. Explain why my mother is outside holding a paper plate while you're inside playing hostess. Or explain why you're having an affair with your boss. The dinner conversation inside had stopped. Complete silence, except for the wind chimes on the neighbor's porch. It's not what it looks like, Melissa said desperately. Your mother has been following me, spying on me. She's trying to ruin our marriage because she's jealous. I had to admire her strategy. When caught red-handed, blame the messenger. It's a classic move, and under different circumstances, it might have worked, but she'd made one critical error. She'd humiliated me in front of witnesses, and now those same witnesses were about to learn exactly who they'd been sharing dinner with. Jealous? I repeated loud enough for the people inside to hear. Melissa, honey, I'm 67 years old. The only thing I'm jealous of is people who still have their dignity intact. Daniel looked at the paper plate on the porch, then at his wife. You made my mother eat outside. It was just a joke, Melissa said quickly. A silly Christmas prank. She's being overly dramatic about it. A prank? Daniel's voice was deadly quiet. I knew that tone. He'd used it exactly twice in his childhood. Once when his best friend stole his bicycle, and once when his first wife cleaned out their joint bank account. You made my mother eat on the porch like an animal as a prank. Mr. Patterson appeared behind Daniel, wine glass in hand. Everything all right out here? We're ready for dessert. Actually, Tom, Daniel said, never taking his eyes off Melissa. I think dinner's over. That's when I heard Mrs. Anderson's voice from the dining room. Is that Daniel's mother outside? Why isn't she joining us? The moment of truth had arrived. Everyone was about to learn that the perfect Christmas hostess had been serving up humiliation along with the turkey. Because, I called out cheerfully, stepping past Melissa into the foyer. Apparently, there wasn't room for me at the table. But don't worry, Melissa made sure I had somewhere to eat. I held up the paper plate for everyone to see. The collective intake of breath was audible. Mrs. Anderson's wine glass stopped halfway to her lips. Mr. Patterson's jovial expression transformed into something resembling horror. The younger couple I didn't recognize exchanged glances that spoke volumes about what they thought of hosts who treated elderly mothers like stray dogs. Oh my God, Mrs. Anderson whispered. Melissa, you didn't actually. It was a misunderstanding, Melissa said. But her voice lacked conviction. She was watching her carefully constructed social image crumble in real time. Daniel held up his phone. And this? Was this a misunderstanding, too? He turned the screen toward the group. I couldn't see their faces clearly from where I stood, but the silence was deafening. Mr. Patterson set down his wine glass with deliberate care. I think perhaps Margaret and I should be going. Me, too, said the young woman, whose name I'd never learned. This feels like a private family matter. Within minutes, the dinner party had dissolved. Guests gathered coats and purses with the hurried efficiency of people fleeing a natural disaster. Polite thank yous and see you soon were exchanged, but everyone avoided looking directly at Melissa. When the last guest had departed, Daniel closed the front door and leaned against it. Melissa stood in the middle of her perfectly decorated living room, surrounded by the debris of her ruined Christmas dinner. 15 years, Daniel said quietly. 15 years of marriage, and this is what I get. My mother humiliated on my doorstep while you're having an affair. Daniel, please. Melissa tried again. Let me explain about the photos. It's not what you think. Then what is it? He moved closer to her, his voice gaining strength. Explain to me why you're checking into hotels with your boss. Explain to me why my mother was eating off a paper plate on the porch while you entertained people I work with. I could have spoken up, could have provided more details about what I'd witnessed over the past 6 months. But this wasn't my moment anymore. This was my son finally seeing his wife for who she really was. The hotels were for work meetings, Melissa said weakly. Confidential client discussions, Daniel laughed, but there was no humor in it. In hotel rooms with overnight stays. Mama's photos from 6 different dates. Melissa, 6. Her face went white. She hadn't realized I'd been documenting her activities for months. You want to know the really sad part? Daniel continued. If you just asked for a divorce, I probably would have given you half of everything and walked away quietly. But instead, you chose to destroy my relationship with my mother while carrying on an affair. What kind of person does that? Melissa looked around the room as if searching for an escape route. The Christmas tree lights twinkled mockingly in the corner. The expensive decorations she'd insisted on buying seemed to mock her now. Daniel, I love you, she said desperately. We can work through this. Marriage counseling, whatever you want. Just don't let your mother destroy what we have. That's when I decided I'd heard enough. Melissa, I said pleasantly. I didn't destroy anything. You did that all by yourself when you decided to treat family like garbage while playing house with your boss. She whirled to face me. And for a moment, I saw pure hatred in her eyes. This is all your fault. You've been trying to break us up since the day we got married. Have I? I tilted my head, thoughtfully, because I seemed to remember offering to help plan your wedding, hosting your bridal shower, and babysitting your sister's kids when you needed time alone together. But apparently, helping family is what crazy old ladies do. Daniel was staring at his wife like he'd never seen her before. Is that what you really think of my mother? The question hung in the air like smoke, and in that moment, watching Melissa scramble for an answer that wouldn't further damn her, I realized something profound. For the first time in 3 years, I wasn't afraid of losing my son because I was about to get him back. The silence stretched until Melissa apparently decided her best defense was a good offense. She straightened her shoulders and faced Daniel with renewed determination. Your mother has been manipulating this family for years, she announced. She pretends to be this sweet grandmother, but she's controlling and possessive. She can't stand that you're married and happy. I almost admired her boldness. Almost manipulating how exactly? Daniel asked. The constant phone calls, the surprise visits, the way she questions everything I do. Melissa was gaining momentum now, her voice rising. She undermines my authority in this house at every turn. Your authority? I couldn't help myself. Melissa, this isn't a dictatorship. It's supposed to be a family.
See?
She pointed at me triumphantly.
Right there.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. She can't let me be the woman of this house. Daniel rubbed his temples like he was developing a headache. The woman of the house? What does that even mean? It means your wife should come first. Melissa snapped. Not your mother. A man is supposed to leave his parents and cleave to his wife. It's biblical. I blinked. In all the years I'd known Melissa, She'd never expressed interest in anything biblical beyond using the church directory for networking purposes. "Did you just quote scripture to justify cheating on your husband?" I asked. Her face flushed red. "I am not cheating." Daniel held up his phone again. "Melissa, I have photos of you kissing another man. What exactly would you call that?" It was a moment of weakness," she stammered. "Tom was going through a divorce, and I was trying to comfort him. It didn't mean anything. 6 different hotels didn't mean anything. It was just a few times, and it's over now, completely over." Daniel walked to the window and stared out at the neighbor's house where lights twinkled cheerfully on their Christmas tree. A normal family having a normal holiday, the kind of life he'd thought he was building with Melissa. "When did you become someone I don't recognize?" he asked quietly. The question seemed to catch Melissa off guard. For a moment, her mask slipped, and I saw something that might have been regret. "Daniel, I never meant for things to go this far," she said, her voice softer now. "The affair, the way I've treated your mother. None of it was planned. It just happened." "Things don't just happen, Melissa. People make choices." She moved toward him, reaching out tentatively. "I know I've made mistakes, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling, take a vacation, start fresh." "What about my mother?" The question stopped her mid-step. "What about her? Are you going to apologize for humiliating her on Christmas? For making her eat on the porch like an animal?" Melissa's eyes flicked to me, then back to Daniel. I could see her calculating, trying to determine what answer would serve her best. "If that's what it takes," she said finally. "If that's what it takes." Daniel turned away from the window. "Melissa, you don't apologize to someone because it's expedient. You apologize because you're genuinely sorry for hurting them." "I am sorry," she insisted. "Dorothy, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. The porch thing was inappropriate." I stared at her for a long moment. It was possibly the most insincere apology I'd ever received, and I'd heard some doozies in my time. "Melissa," I said carefully, "do you understand why what you did was wrong? Yes, it was mean and unnecessary. But do you understand why it was wrong?" She looked confused. "Because it hurt your feelings." Daniel closed his eyes. Even he could see that his wife had fundamentally missed the point.
"It was wrong," I said gently.
"Because you treated a human being like they were less than human. It was wrong because you humiliated someone in their moment of vulnerability. It was wrong because you chose cruelty when kindness would have cost you nothing." "I said I was sorry," Melissa protested. "You said words that sounded like sorry. That's not the same thing." Daniel sat down heavily in his leather recliner, the one Melissa had tried to replace 3 times because it didn't match her decor vision. "Melissa, do you love me?" he asked. "Of course I do." "Do you respect me?" She hesitated just long enough to make the answer obvious.
"Yes."
"Then why would you think I'd be okay with you treating my mother like garbage? What kind of man did you think you married?" The question seemed to genuinely stump her. I realized with crystal clarity that Melissa had never actually considered how her actions reflected on Daniel's character. In her mind, this was purely about her relationship with me. I thought you'd understand that I needed to establish boundaries," she said weakly. "Boundaries," Daniel laughed bitterly. "Melissa, the woman raised me alone after my father died. She worked 2 jobs to put me through college. She took care of me when I had pneumonia last year while you were at your spa weekend. What boundaries exactly did you think you needed?" "She's too involved in our marriage." How is she too involved?" Melissa looked around the room as if searching for evidence. She calls too much once a week. She gives unwanted advice." "Like what?" Melissa's voice trailed off as she apparently realized she had no specific examples. "She what, Melissa?" "She loves me. She wants to be part of our family. She brings us food and remembers our anniversaries and asks about our lives." With each word, Melissa seemed to shrink. The confident woman who'd blocked the door earlier had been replaced by someone who was finally hearing how her behavior sounded when spoken aloud. "I just wanted us to have our own life," she whispered. "We do have our own life," Daniel said. "But that doesn't mean we have to shut out everyone who loves us. That's not how healthy families work." I watched this conversation unfold with a mixture of sadness and hope. Sadness because my son's marriage was clearly over, but hope because he was finally seeing the situation clearly. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and felt my heart skip. It was from Tom Patterson, Melissa's boss. "Melissa, I think we need to talk." My wife found the hotel receipts. I looked up to find both Daniel and Melissa staring at me. "Everything all right, Mom?" Daniel asked. I held up my phone. "I think," I said slowly, "things are about to get much more complicated." Because while we'd been having this family drama, the real world had been spinning along without us. And apparently, Melissa's affair was about to become everyone's problem, not just ours. "Who was that?" Daniel demanded. Before I could answer, Melissa's phone started ringing. She looked at the caller ID and went pale. "It's Tom," she whispered. Daniel's expression hardened. "Answer it, Daniel." "I don't think answer it," he repeated, his voice like steel. "Right now, on speaker." Melissa's hands shook as she accepted the call and activated the speaker function. "Melissa, check if you're subscribed to the channel and write in the comments where you're watching this video from. We love to know how far our stories are reaching."